Have you been experiencing the pitfalls of hell, feeling like you're doing shadow work and not sure how to shift from the fear and the darkness to the light? Well, stay tuned because I'm going to share with you how and why collectively twin flames have taken on the mission to shift from the shadows to the light. Welcome back to part 2 of Twin Flames are facilitating the 3 days of darkness. So let's pick back up as to what this means for you in this current timeline, this current reality, and what you're doing so you can understand how to shift between this line of being on or off the fence, or learning how to surf in a fine line between resistance and surrender that will always exist as long as you've reached your greatest light and your greatest darkness, which the more light you get to, the more darkness you experience that won't go away because it's how you expand. And so in this, I guess, let me just kind of see where I should if I should piggyback or recap. Make sure if you've not watched part 1 to go back and review that part 1, because it's going to be super, super important. And if for any reason this ends up being short enough, it might just become part of part 1. I'll just have to see. So we've had this huge shift in consciousness that is raising the vibrational planet, because we are individually raising our own vibration of our own consciousness. And in doing so, it's creating a timeline in this end of the world, so to speak, of the end of the old ways, the end of the old paradigms, the end of our old belief systems, as we're rewriting and recreating. So basically, the death of our old self, which is very painful to the rebirthing process, and coming to a place of recreation of who we are. Now's the timeline of a square peg and a round hole, is where you're at a clean slate, a fresh start, a new way to do things. And if you're trying to do it the old way, it just won't work. And so because of this expansion of the light and the dark, people are still in hell and people are in heaven. And then people are everywhere in between. So I kind of want to present it in that way for you, because dependent upon where you are will be dependent upon what you technically need to do. But I invite you to trust this process. And number 1 is just to say yes to this journey and stop fighting it. And to be able to finally just stop and say, I don't know what the outcome is. I don't know what I exactly signed up for, but I know that I am ready for peace and serenity and love and joy in my life. And however that comes, like taking it off of the twin flame or the bullet point bullseye of one person can only make you happy, will be so important. Because in this timeline and in this concept of what I'm saying, there are 2 major things that are taking place all at the same time. Number 1 is we're creating this forced separation. So if you're still in a place of hanging on, you're still in a place of lower vibrational timelines, you're still clearing karma, you're still in relationships that aren't supporting your higher good, or you've not trusted enough to get into your purpose, making meaningful money, and you're hanging on to a job that's not fulfilling you anymore. Or even let's take a look at the bigger governmental aspects of that, of how government's breaking down, religions are breaking down, structure is breaking down, and in the universe and in the world, this is happening to us individually, but collectively this is happening as well in the bigger paradigms of collective things such as government, I guess would be a good example, since I already said that. And so I want to remind you what I said, where this is coming from. This is coming from the duality and the contrast of shadows and light within yourself. And so if you're in this forced separation, or in this place that these things need to be let go of, we're at this fine line of the end of the world. So let me see how to piggyback that with the timeline. because what I want you to realize is the timeline, what I'm talking about, where we're at right now, that this is happening. So I gave you in the last part, like in the first part, where I was presenting to you the timeline of what is taking place and why you're where you're at with this forced separation or forced opening, or even if you've surrendered, you're leaving one era and you're opening another portal to the new beginning. And it's like this fine line between the two of those. And so the other thing I want you to know, I guess, in the timeline of that, we came out of what we would consider the universally, we've came out of this seventh seal. We've came out of we're coming out of the silence. We are about to go in through like this rapture, I should say, and the tribulation is coming to an end. And at the end of that is biblically talks about how we hit that tribulation time, and the end of the world now will take place in a way of firestone, brimstone, earthquakes, tsunamis, all these things that are going to happen to basically wipe out and cleanse the world, so that the world is anew when it recreates. So what I was explaining in the last video was we are also doing grid work to heal Mother Earth, to heal the fractures. And I'm being seen as to that happening. I've also been seeing myself going through this process. And so I'm going to give you, I feel like giving you a little bit of a like understanding what I've been going through and seeing with this grid work and why it's so important in this timeline, because we are about to have a shift in energy that it's already been coming, but it's picking up speed to where we're going to be forced through the energy to be in one timeline or another, or one space or another, heaven or hell. And it's coming. It like this judgment day kind of is coming, and it's like right here, and it's like in one day will be equivalent to 1,000 years of energy being forced through you. And people are already doing this. And if you, like for me, I've been leading up to this 20 years, and I can't imagine you guys having this happen to you overnight and feeling like you're stepped on by an elephant, because I've had years to accumulate and assimilate and process this, as a lot of you have. But not everyone is having that. It's really happening really intensely, really fast. So as this earth plane shifts in its frequency and we let go of the separation of all those old things, that's why people are going through being forced to separate, forced to let go of timelines, forced to let go of relationships. And that being not just relationships with partners, but family. Like if you haven't resolved things with your family, and I'm seeing this with clients, so much family clearing is happening right now. And I feel like too, that's where the biblical kind of like idea is, if your family's knocking at the door, don't let them trick you, because technically they could be the one holding you back from elevating to your ascension process, right? And I also want you to know, when like I see this as when, you know, biblically, like when they talk about Satan, I see it as ego. And we're breaking down ego, and we're letting go of ego, and ego will trick us, and ego will create a false illusion and give us the false fear of false events appear real. So, you know, one of the things, as I mentioned to you, that will be so important is if you can just say yes to this journey. You can surrender to that. You can let go. And so I know I was about to tell you about the grid lines, but I feel something else very much more important for me to complete first. I feel like I need to complete the separation and the opening. And I created these grids. So I have been seeing this earth, like a widening of like the separation of being like people. I'm seeing this in visions of people in the earth just being split and being like, you know, the fear going in one direction and heaven going in another direction. And in that, in the separation of all these things, is being forced to let go of all these things I said. But in that's creating the new beginning. So we're starting with this clean slate here that's opening the portal and opening the space for anew. Now, I had this really awesome session with a client last evening, and I want to thank you, by the way, because in what I'm about to tell you in the grid work, I have been seeing these fractures in the earth, and I've been shown grid work wise how they're being healed, and that I've been in the process of healing them through visions, and like, I'll explain to you something in a minute. It's really coolly bizarre. But anyway, she was seeing in the X, and like technically the diamond here and the X are the same. It just depends on which way you're looking at it. And so thank you for showing me this, as her and I always are paralleling on some kind of like helping. She brings me these clues that are little pieces to finish my dots to connect. So, and some of the things she kind of had heard was X marks the spot. Well, I've been shown that the X, since her and I had that session, that the X represents the surrendered spot. It is the neutrality that I'm talking about. So you need to get neutral in letting go of like the fear and letting go and trusting. So trusting, timing, and taking action will help you stay in surrender. So when you're feeling your resistance and your fear of letting go and being pulled in that direction, sometimes just like coming to a place of, one, what's the worst thing that can happen if I do let go? One. Number two, like letting go of the fear of the outcome to be able to get in alignment with what is or what is now, and knowing that any choice you make can't be wrong, and to stay in peace in every present moment. And I have a lot of videos on this stuff, so make sure to kind of refer back to some of those things if you're still having troubles in that space. But the point is that in this timeline that I'm being shown, that has started and really picked up around Easter, going through summer solstice all the way to the 4th of July, that somewhere within this time frame, we are having this massive, massive shift of energy that's coming in from, like, at the speed of light, that's downloading energy, that's creating increase in frequencies, that's taking one of our days, like one day equaling 1,000 years, that's going to flush this stuff out of us. And it's purging. It's like, it's just going to be, you're going to be stepped on, it's going to be gone, and it's going to be very intense. But you can choose to like let go of that on your own. You don't have to wait for this separation to take place, forcing you to let go of it. And so many people are already hanging on to that. They're already going through it. But I'm also seeing where, there is and could potentially be catastrophic events on the earth. And I think that's what the grid work is being done, is to try to prevent that. There'll be some solar storms potentially come through. And that in this earth healing, it's about forgiveness to Mother Earth. It's offering forgiveness to Mother Earth for these things. And that, and this one more thing about this layers of release that we're going through is creating waves. Okay, and we've been going through waves of this, and we've been going through waves of highs and lows. And again, neutrality is what you need, and peace in the moment that's going to help you stay on path in this. And it will be where heaven is on earth that we're trying to arrive to. Now, back to the grid work. So I know consciously I've done a lot of it in a long period of time, but it's picked up speed. And I've been through all of this, and especially 3 years, that keeps picking up speed. It's not been my conscious choice to go to these places, but they're usually revisiting places that I've been. Well, a week and a half ago, 2 weekends ago, I was retaken back through a wedding, of actually a twin flame wedding, where my son is a twin flame, which, by the way, he proposed to his twin flame this last weekend. And so congratulations to him, by the way. And this little town in the middle of a cornfield, I was taken back to from 3 years prior to the exact weekend that I was with my parents, and a car broke down outside of this town that we ended up in. It was a ghost town and wasn't even in business, and we had to go somewhere else. But I'm showing up at this wedding going, oh my gosh, like, I'm back here in this town, which, by the way, a twin flame couple came in and is trying to restore the town through creating wedding venues. And this hotel there that's over 100 years old also is part of this, where people stay and then go to this venue for weddings. And they're bringing in a lot of comers to be able to bring and restore this town. And so bottom line is I knew I was there for more than a wedding. I also realized very quickly I was connected to a lot of twin flames there that are doing work that didn't even, like, through my connection with them, having awakened to this millennial group of my son's friends that are twin flames. And it was really confirmed when I walked in the 100-year-old hotel, and I'll try to put a link right up here showing you that the rise of the phoenix coming out of the fire and 2 twin flame torches on each side of it is a stained glass above the front door of this old 100-year-old hotel. And maybe more than 100 years old. Anyway, basically that night I asked guidance to show me why I was there. And I woke up at 4 a.m. and I woke up to blasts and explosions and debris, and the earth was erupting, and it was actually quite intense. And I've done a lot of shadow work too. So if I hadn't done the shadow work and an understanding, it was so intense that it could have been scary. And I wasn't scared at all because I knew what was happening. But I also, with that, knew that being able to clear it was important. And it took about an hour or so. And I just released and released and released and released. And I felt the peace and the settlement come. And just as that happened, my son's alarm went off because he had to be at work super early. And he had to leave early from the next morning after the wedding. And him and his twin were being super quiet, trying not to wake me up. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm awake. I've been doing energy healing. I then fell back to sleep, and I went to breakfast, and I asked the groom, what's the history of this town? And he said that they were a quarry town, and that they would do explosions, and that they hit a spring, and the spring flooded the town, and it put the town basically out of business. And that now this couple that he mentioned was trying to restore all of this, and he's trying to help them. He's also a twin. And so basically, you know, like, I was just blown away because in my vision, I also saw fire and destruction. And he also told me the hotel had burned and they had restored it. And just my leading up to that for some personal things was very deep for my own personal processing of some major stuff that was coming through me to learn. This whole thing set me on this quest and an understanding of how my whole life I've lived on the New Madrid Fault in the Midwest of Missouri, where in 1811, 1812, there was a really bad earthquake, and there was also a meteorite that hit, and there was also a flood that caused 2 twin falls in the middle of the state. And I also knew this whole time, if you followed me, that I've been saying that I'm in the heart chakra, anchoring the love vibration of the planet and restoring the love. And I understood that. But through the visions I had, I saw the separation of the earthquake, separating everything. And that I'm talking about, I keep seeing the separation take place. And I was heard it's fractures, like there's fractures in the earth, and that we're healing them through the love vibration. I then was shown a pathway to connect how this has been happening, like through these fractures of healing the earthquakes from here in the Midwest to also LA, to San Francisco, to Victoria. In Canada, around Vancouver, are some major faults that are on over time. And that in that I was shown, I've actually been visiting all of these places over the last couple of years. And in fact, this week that I had this revelation, I had a local person that lived here that moved to LA, came back. He needed to do some energy healing, and I understood why he was there. And we did a grid work activation and did it even here at the Swan Lake by me. And then the very next day on the full moon, which, by the way, I understood, like, I had the urge to reach out to a friend in LA, but I was doing so much personal stuff that, like, I couldn't really get past what I was doing, because it was, all I can tell you is this going inward feeling, like just of being connected and being grounded and feeling really connected to that. I was being pulled into myself. And she ended up reaching out to me twice that day. And then that night she was going out, and that got like totally canceled from the universe. And her and I did some energy healing to heal the earth between LA and here where I'm at. And So I want you to know this is what's happening, and it's not a time to be scared. It's a time to really resurrect and rejoice for all of the hard work we've done. And I've also been shown very clearly that that's what, we're doing so much grid work right now, and so many timelines are collapsing right now to force this thing going into how much is happening at one time. And if you're feeling like you're being ripped apart, it's really only because you're opening up the space for what's coming. And stop fighting it. Let go, allow it. And again, this is going to be really picking up speed, and there's going to be some really big energetic shifts that potentially are going to align with some of the could be catastrophic stuff that we've heard about from the end of times coming because of the earth shifting. But I've also been shown that's why we're doing grid work as twin flames, that we're also healing the fractures of the earth right now and offering forgiveness and love to the earth, which is actually restoring the earth's fractures, which is restoring all of the separation. And I don't even remember if I showed you this or not, but there's this card that came up last night and the session that I did where I'd already been seeing all this, and this is an X, and her mentioning that X marks the spot. So that's alignment of yourself. X marks the spot. Being in this spot is where you need to be in this timeline to best support you, your journey, your love, and I am seeing that out of this neutrality is going to bring beauty and love and relationships, and restoring everything that we have been waiting for is here. It can feel very scary because you're going to be forced to let go if you're hanging on. And if you're hanging on, it's going to get worse. So I'm asking you, please listen to me. I'm even feeling the urge, before this was all coming together, is feeling the urge to tell people okay, if I was about to tell you it's the end of the world, and I just need you to trust me that it's going to be okay, but I need you to jump over here with me and get on board with me to this higher self business and this higher love and this higher vibration. And you've done it. And you don't need to be in purgatory anymore. You just don't. So I invite you to make today is your choice to choose for yourself and get on up here and let's go to heaven and let's have fun and let's have love and embrace and experience joy and peace and happiness and compassion and love, and get out of the mindset of this lower limitations and all about your twin. And some of this might feel like the separation of you and your twin too, which is also why it's hard. But it's time to rise to your potential. It's time to rise up to the phoenix and come out of the ashes and enjoy your life and love. Make sure you check all our resources that can help you clear your contracts, help you determine what you want from your heart's desires below. It's a time to do that. It's also a time to go into meditation, in things that's going to increase your vibration, and it's going to allow you to align mentally, physically, spiritually, to stay strong and empowered, to find peace in the present moment, to find your neutral space and surf the wave of the duality of contrast, because we will never end the shadow if we want the light. Okay? Like, comment, share the shine. May you always face your fears, find freedom, and glow forward on fire. Namaste.